At 2:47 in the morning, during a violent Seattle storm, a waitress made a choice she could have ignored. She took the hand of a lost little boy. By sunrise, she was connected to an empire built on money, violence, and secrets that could get her killed. This is the story of one walk home that changed everything. If stories that start small and in big move you, like, share, and subscribe, because this one only gets more intense from here. Let me tell you about a woman named Jessica Rivers. This is her story, and I promise you, it's unlike anything you've ever heard. It was 2:47 in the morning in downtown Seattle, and the rain was coming down so hard it felt like the sky was angry. The kind of rain that hits the windows like bullets, the kind that makes you wonder why anyone would be outside. Jessica was just a 25-year-old woman trying to survive in this city. She worked the graveyard shift at the Golden Lotus, this 24-hour Korean restaurant in the International District. Nothing glamorous about it. Just her, wiping down tables, serving drunk customers, and watching her dreams get smaller every single day. She'd grown up in South Seattle, raised by her mom, Patricia, after her dad disappeared into the prison system when she was 12. Her mom cleaned houses for rich families who barely looked at her. Patricia taught Jessica young: smile, serve, survive. Never trust strangers, especially after midnight. That night started like any other for Jessica. She clocked in at 11, worked through the rush, and by 2:30, the place was almost empty. Just her and the sound of rain hammering the roof. She was cleaning the last table when she heard it, the bell above the door. She looked up, ready to say they were closing, but the words died in her throat. Standing there, absolutely soaked, was this little boy. Couldn't have been older than 6 or 7. He wore this expensive navy coat, the kind you see on kids in magazines, and his black hair was plastered to his forehead. But it was his eyes that stopped her cold. They looked old, like he'd seen things no child should ever see. He walked straight toward her, water dripping everywhere. And when he reached the counter, he looked up and said in perfect English, "Miss, can you walk me home?" Jessica's brain went into overdrive. Every warning her mama ever gave her started screaming. Strange child, middle of the night, no adult anywhere. This had to be some kind of setup. "Baby," she said, kneeling down to his level. "Where's your mama?" "Your daddy." "My mother is sleeping," he said like he'd practiced it. "My driver was supposed to pick me up for my lesson, but he never came. I got lost." "Lesson?" "At 3 in the morning. My teacher keeps late hours." Jessica looked at this kid closer. That coat was Burberry, the real deal. His shoes were handmade leather, even soaked through. His clothes probably cost more than she made in a month. "What's your name?" she asked. "Liam," he said, "but you can call me that if my name's too hard." Despite everything, Jessica almost smiled. "Liam, I can't just walk you home without calling somebody. Your parents, the police." "No police," he said quickly. Then softer, "Please." Thunder cracked outside, so loud the windows shook. Liam flinched, and Jessica saw it, the crack in his brave face. He was just a scared kid trying to hold it together. Her heart twisted. She thought about herself at that age. Her father already gone, her mother working 3 jobs, knowing what it felt like to be small and powerless. "Damn it," she whispered. She grabbed her jacket and called back to her coworker. "I'll be back in 20 minutes. She looked down at Liam. "You stay right next to me. You hold my hand the whole time." "Deal." He nodded. They stepped into the storm, and it hit them like a wall. Within seconds, Jessica was soaked through. Liam's hand was freezing in hers, but his grip was strong. "Which way?" she shouted over the rain. He pointed toward the nicer residential area, away from the restaurants and shops. They walked through empty streets. The occasional car passed, headlights cutting through the rain. Jessica kept her phone ready, finger hovering over 911. "You really had piano lessons this late?" she asked, trying to keep things light. "My teacher is from Korea," Liam said. "She keeps Korean hours. Plus, I have school during the day. You're 6, and you go to school and take lessons in the middle of the night." "I'm 7 next month." They walked deeper into the residential area. The houses got bigger. Gates appeared. Security cameras. This was serious money territory. "Liam," Jessica said carefully, "what does your father do?" "Business," he said. "Import and export." "That's what they all say," Jessica thought. They turned a corner, and Liam pointed ahead. There. Jessica looked up, and her breath caught. At the end of the block stood a massive gate, and right in the center, glowing under a security light, was an emblem, a golden tiger, roaring, beautiful and terrifying. That's your house. Jessica whispered. Yes. They walked closer. She could see cameras everywhere, motion sensors. The wall was at least 10 feet high. This wasn't a house. This was a fortress. Liam reached up to a keypad and entered a long code. The gate hummed and started to open. Liam, Jessica said, her heart pounding, who exactly is your father? Before he could answer, lights flooded the driveway. Jessica threw up her hand against the glare. Men emerged from the darkness. At least 4 of them, all in dark suits, all moving fast. Her first instinct was to run, but Liam's hand tightened in hers. It's okay, he said quietly. One of the men barked something in Korean at Liam, and this is where things got really strange. Liam responded, and his whole voice changed. Harder, commanding. He spoke rapid Korean, gesturing to Jessica, and she didn't understand the words, but she understood the tone. He was giving orders, and then these grown men, these big, dangerous-looking men bowed. All 4 of them. Then they knelt on the wet pavement in their expensive suits. Jessica's mind went blank. Liam turned to her. His face looked different now. Older. Thank you for walking me home, Miss Jessica. Go now, he said gently. You're safe. No one will follow you. No one will bother you. One of the men stood and held an umbrella over Jessica's head without looking at her. She stood there, frozen, rain dripping off her jacket, staring at this little boy who suddenly seemed like anything but. Go, Liam repeated. Jessica turned and walked. Made it half a block before she looked back. The gate was closing. The lights were off, like none of it had happened. Except her heart was racing, and she knew, she absolutely knew, her life would never be the same. Now, here's where Jessica's story takes an even stranger turn. For days later, she came home from her shift to find an envelope on her doorstep. Cream-colored, expensive paper. Her name written in beautiful handwriting. Inside her apartment, with the door locked and lights on, she opened it. Cash. Stacks of $100 bills. She counted with shaking hands. $10,000. Underneath was a note in careful, childlike English. Dear Miss Jessica, thank you for walking me home. You were very kind. My father says I should always repay kindness. Please accept this gift. You are safe. No one will bother you. Your friend, Liam. Jessica sat there on her floor, staring at $10,000. That was a new apartment. That was paying off debt. That was her dream of opening a coffee shop suddenly not so far away. She should return it, obviously, but there was no return address. No way to contact him. And that money sitting there represented hope. Her best friend Rachel came over when Jessica called. When she showed her everything, Rachel's eyes went wide. Who was this kid? Rachel asked. I don't know. Girl, people don't just hand out 10 grand for being nice. This is danger money. The note says I'm safe. The note was written by a child. Rachel was right. Of course she was right. But that money represented possibility. A way out of the exhausting grind that had defined Jessica's entire adult life. I'm going to keep it, Jessica heard herself say. 2 weeks passed. Nothing happened. Jessica almost convinced herself it was over. Then came the invitation. A black car pulled up as she was leaving work. A woman stepped out, Korean, 50s, dressed like a CEO. Miss Rivers, she said. My name is Mrs. Park. I work for Mr. Blackwell. He would like to invite you to dinner. I don't know any Mr. Blackwell. He walked his son home 2 weeks ago. Jessica's heart jumped. And if I say no, then we say good night and you never hear from us again. But Mr. Blackwell believes you have questions. He's willing to answer them. Jessica texted Rachel, getting in a car with strangers. If you don't hear from me in 3 hours, call the cops. The restaurant was in downtown Seattle. No sign, just a discreet door. Private dining rooms, soft lighting, the smell of expensive food. And at the head of the table sat a man. Tall, mid-40s, graying hair, sharp features. Everything about him screamed control power. He stood when Jessica entered and bowed slightly. Miss Rivers, thank you for coming. Please sit. She sat. Her palms were sweating. I owe you a debt, he said. You protected my son when you had no obligation to. In my world, such actions are rare. I just walked him home. At 3 in the morning, in a storm, when every instinct told you not to. He leaned back. Let me be direct, Miss Rivers. I run an organization that operates across multiple cities. We deal in various business interests, some legal, some less so. I'm what you might call a businessman with unconventional methods. You're a gangster. If it makes you more comfortable, yes. And you're telling me this why? Because you deserve the truth. You walked in my world accidentally. You deserve to know what that means. He poured her tea. I'm offering you a position. Occasional time with Liam. Supervised outings, conversations, normalcy. In exchange for discretion and your silence. And protection, he added, from anyone who might seek to use your connection to my family against us. Are you threatening me? I'm protecting you. There are people who would hurt you simply because my son walked through your door. Jessica stood up. This is insane. It is. But my son has been trained since birth to recognize threats and allies. He sees you as the latter. He needs someone who sees him as just a boy. She paced. What if I say no? Then you walk out, live your life, and we part as strangers. You'll really let me go? He looked her in the eyes. Miss Rivers, I have many tools to make people comply. I don't need to use them with you. Either you choose this freely, or you don't choose it at all. God help her. Jessica wanted to believe him. How much money? She asked quietly. $50,000 a year, deposited monthly, for perhaps 6 hours of your time per month. $50,000. Her entire salary for being a kid's friend. I want it in writing, she said. He nodded. And I want Rachel to know where I am every time. Acceptable. And the moment I feel unsafe, I'm out. Agreed. She sat back down. Okay, I'm in. Over the next months, Jessica met with Liam regularly. Parks, museums, even a baseball game. He was brilliant, lonely, and carrying weight no child should carry. They'd get ice cream, and he'd ask about normal life, what it was like to not have bodyguards, to not be training constantly. She taught him slang. He taught her Korean phrases. Slowly, impossibly, he became like a little brother to her. The money came like clockwork. Jessica moved to a better apartment, started saving seriously, began to breathe, but there was a cost. She couldn't date. Every guy got scared off by background checks. She lost friends who couldn't understand her new life. Her mother knew something was wrong, but Jessica couldn't tell her the truth. And then came the threats. Unknown numbers calling. Messages saying she should be more careful who she made friends with. Someone broke into her apartment, didn't take anything, just looked through her things. Mr. Blackwell's people increased her security. But the message was clear. Jessica was now a target because of her connection to Liam. How long does this go on? She demanded of Blackwell. Until they understand you're permanent. That attacking you brings consequences. Jessica had learned not to ask what those consequences were. But she stayed. Because she made a promise to Liam. Because leaving would mean abandoning a child who needed her. Because somehow, impossibly, this had become her family. Now let me tell you about the night that changed everything for Jessica. It was June 2016, about a year after that first rainy walk. Mr. Blackwell, his first name was Vincent, was hosting a charity gala. Technically legitimate, raising money for cultural programs. Actually, a gathering of Seattle's power players, many with ties to organizations like his. Jessica was invited as Liam's guest, her first public appearance in that world. She wore a dress Mrs. Park helped her pick. She felt like an imposter. Liam wore a tiny suit and told her she looked beautiful. The ballroom was stunning. Crystal chandeliers, live music, people in designer, everything. Jessica felt every eye on her as they entered. The whispers, the stares. Vincent appeared at her elbow. Breathe. You belong here. Do I? You're with my son. That makes you untouchable. Then it happened. Shouting near the entrance. Then gunshots. The ballroom erupted into chaos. Vincent's hand was on her arm instantly. Get Liam. Back exit. Now. But Liam was across the room, frozen as panicked guests surged around him. Jessica didn't think. She ran, pushing through the crowd, focused only on that small boy in the navy suit. She reached him, grabbed his hand. We're leaving. Now. More shots. Closer. She pulled Liam toward the kitchen, through the doors, out into an alley. A car was waiting. Security was forming a protective wall. Get in, someone shouted. Jessica pushed Liam into the SUV and climbed in after him. The car peeled out. Liam was shaking, silent tears running down his face. She pulled him close. It's okay. You're safe. I got you. Jessica, he whispered. I was scared. I know, baby. Me too. But you came. Of course I came. He buried his face in her shoulder, and Jessica realized something in that moment. She would die for this kid. Without hesitation. Without question. Vincent came to the safe house an hour later. He looked at Jessica, holding his son, and something in his expression softened. Thank you, he said quietly. That night changed everything for Jessica. Vincent offered her a formal position, not just as Liam's companion, but as his godmother. In their world, that meant protection, guidance, a voice in his future. She said yes. The years that followed were a strange balance. Jessica opened her coffee shop, called it Liam's Place as a private joke. She ran it during the day, living something close to normal. At night, she attended meetings, learned the politics of Vincent's world, navigated alliances and rivalries. She'd become a fixture, the outsider who somehow became an insider. The money was good, better than good. She paid off her mother's debts, helped Rachel get into nursing school, built the life she'd always wanted. But the cost was real. She lived with constant security, lost friends, lied to her mother about where the money came from, watched Liam grow harder, colder, being groomed to take over an empire built on violence. There were more attacks, a poisoning attempt, a car bomb. Each time, Jessica survived because Vincent's people were watching. Each time, she understood more deeply what she'd become part of. One night, she asked Vincent, how long does this go on? Until they understand you're permanent. And how many people have to die for that understanding? He didn't answer. But Jessica stayed. She stayed because Liam needed her. Because in the moments when they'd grab coffee and he'd laugh at something stupid she said, she'd see the boy he could have been, the boy she was trying to protect. When a rival organization from Los Angeles started pushing into Seattle, threatening war, Jessica did something crazy. She asked Vincent to let her negotiate. Her, a former waitress, negotiating with gangsters. They'll see me as neutral, she argued. Someone trying to prevent bloodshed. He was skeptical, but he let her try. Jessica sat across from dangerous men and made the case for partnership over war. For mutual profit over mutual destruction. It took months, but they brokered peace. No war, no deaths, just business. Vincent pulled her into a hug afterward. Thank you. She realized then. She had real power in this world. Not fear-based power, not money power, but influence. The kind that came from being trusted. Now, as I finish telling you Jessica's story, it's 2026. She's 36. Liam is 17, preparing to take over his father's empire. Jessica thinks about alternate timelines sometimes. What if she'd call the cops that night? What if she'd refused to walk him home? She'd probably still be serving tables somewhere. Safe, maybe. Small, definitely. But she wouldn't have Liam. Wouldn't have learned that she was brave, capable, strong enough to navigate worlds she never imagined entering. She stands at her coffee shop on rainy mornings, and yes, it still rains in Seattle, and she watches normal people living normal lives. Sometimes she envies them, but then her phone buzzes. Text from Liam, lunch today, and she smiles. Because some moments, the crazy, dangerous, life-altering ones, are worth every complication that followed. Some children are worth protecting, even when protecting them means losing pieces of yourself. Some families are chosen, not born. And some waitresses from Seattle become something they never expected. Survivors, protectors, family. Last week, Liam asked her, Jessica, when I'm running everything, will you still be here? If you want me, she said. I'll always want you here. They hugged, and Jessica thought about how far they'd come. From that rainy night to this moment. From strangers to family. The rain continues to fall outside her coffee shop window. She watches it hit the glass and remembers another rain, another night, a small hand reaching for hers. The moment, everything changed. And you know what? She'd do it all again. Every dangerous choice, every moral compromise, every sleepless night. Because in the end, love, real love, is worth fighting for. Even when it's complicated, even when it's dangerous, even when it starts with a simple question at 2:47 in the morning. Miss, can you walk me home? Sometimes the answer to that question changes everything. And sometimes, like in Jessica's case, that's exactly what someone needs.